네, 그럼 시작해 보겠습니다. ICNX 2025에 함께해 주신 여러분 진심으로 환영합니다. 먼저 인사드리겠습니다. 저는 오늘 진행을 맡은 아나운서 손진입니다. 여러분 만나서 반갑습니다. AI와 첨단 영상 미디어가 열어가는 K 콘텐츠와 엔터테크 산업의 미래를 위해 국내외 전문가들과 글로벌 리더들이 모여서 새로운 방향과 비전을 모색하는 ICNX 2025. 오전에 진행된 첫 번째 키노스 세션에서는 사우스 바이 사우스웨스트 전 대표, 휴 포레스트 전 대표가 From Austin to Asia, 첨단 영상 미디어와 엔터테크 혁신의 확산이라는 주제로 AI와 첨단 영상 미디어로 만들 글로벌 혁신과 인천의 기회에 대해서 깊이 있는 인사이트를 전해주셨습니다. 두 번째 세션은 USC 엔터테인먼트 테크놀로지 센터 에릭 위버 가상 적응형 프로덕션 소장이 할리우드 엔터테크 연구 사례와 첨단 영상 제작 혁신이라는 주제로 버추얼 프로덕션과 디지털 휴먼, AI 기반 스토리텔링의 혁신적인 진화 과정에 대해서 이야기해 주시겠습니다. 그러면 큰 박수로 에릭 위버 소장님을 무대 위로 모셔보겠습니다. Please welcome Mr. Erik Weber to the stage with a warm round of applause. 에릭 위버는 할리우드 메이저 스튜디오와의 협업을 통해서 버추얼 프로덕션, AI, 디지털 휴먼 등 첨단 영상과 엔터테인먼트 기술 혁신을 선도해온 세계적인 전문가로 산업 분야와 아카데미를 연결하는 글로벌 협력 플랫폼을 이끌고 계십니다. 그러면 지금부터 에릭 위버 연구소장의 키노트 스피치를 청해 들어보겠습니다. And now we'll hear the keynote speech from the Mr. Erik Weber.
Thank you so much. Ever since Edward Murbridge did this clip, basically there has been a marriage of technology and storytelling. And even though we have advanced from that place, there is a stronger than ever need for technology to marry with storytelling. So welcome to the ETC. The ETC is a nonprofit think tank in which I report to the CTO of Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, Paramount, Sony, Epic Games. This is the board in which supports our organization. I work for USC's film school, however I don't teach a class. I just get to do really cool things. The original organization was founded about 33 years ago at the behest of George Lucas. George Lucas wanted to help work on digital cinema. Digital cinema at the time hadn't been developed yet, so we came together with the CTOs and built the first DCI spec. We also created the first IMF spec, or interoperable master format. From there, it goes to SMPTE, or the Society of Technical Motion Picture Engineers, who formalized it as a standard within IEEE. What we have seen is a radical change. As we have shifted from digital to virtual to AI, the pace of innovation has become radically faster. The CTOs of the studios have begun to change. People who were once engineers of physical work are now computer scientists. When you look at the evolution of the studios, they are changing. If you take the classics of Paramount, Warner Brothers, MGM, and now it's Netflix, Amazon, Apple. This is a major shift in who has the power to tell these stories. So in the talk today, I have way too many slides. So we're going to do our best to get through some of these, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of key concepts. At the ETC, we do research, and then we write white papers and share and talk about our learnings. This is 3 key papers in the field of virtual production. There are each almost 100 plus pages, so they are very advanced and technical. The very first one, Ripple Effect, is actually primarily written by Catherine Brillhart. If anybody knows Catherine, she did a wonderful show just recently on Amazon. So where did we start? The studios came to us and they said, well, we need to learn about virtual production back in 2020. And our first stage was in Pacoima. This Lamborghini is a very funny story. Somebody came to the owner in Pacoima and said, "I'll give you a car for LED panels." They never came back for the car. He was very surprised. But this originally was a gentleman who did music venues and live LED stages, and he was trying to find a place to use them. We graduated from that, did a lot of different shoots. The next shoot we did was on the Amazon stage, stage 15. At the time, this is the largest LED stage in North America. To get an idea, you can see how big it is. One of my favorite aspects about these two images is the one on the far side has Benjamin Michel in it, who's going to speak in two people. So he's going to be speaking later. The next stage we worked on was Sony Stage 7. What's amazing about Sony Stage 7 is this has a very tight pixel pitch and is probably one of the most advanced stages in America. You can see some of the cool tools like being able to use anamorphics on this particular stage, which requires a lot of understanding of how the workflow works. So we've recently published a page here, and if you've ever worked on an LED volume, you know anamorphics aren't always your friend. So we share the knowledge or what we have done with everyone. So let's talk about the evolution of AI characters and metahumans. When you look at the research, it starts with your classic photogrammetry, which is photosites. Then you go to neural radiance fields, which are voxels. Now, as you get into AI, the simplest I'm going to give here, I'm sure it's more complex than this, is you're typically going to train with LoRa's or low-rank adaptations. Let's give you an example of basically this in action on filmmaking. So this is going to be on Fathead. We decided to create custom metahumans here. At this time, metahumans weren't fully released, and they didn't have metahumans for young children. So we had to make our own rigs and build our own characters. So where does that work us into? It works us into characters that can now be used in different aspects and ways. We were not using this for a key character or a hero character, but instead we were using it for sub-characters. When we made the film, the director wanted to have characters that would sit on the LED volume in the background and be able to play or be triggered, so that we could catch those characters in real time on the LED stage. So we had written a code or a blueprint, basically, that allowed us to trigger when they would do different actions. So this is one use. Now let's look at NeRFs, or neural radiance fields, or Gaussian splats. What you're looking at here is 4DGS, or 4D Gaussian splats. And you might wonder to yourself, how do you use that in a film? So let's see this shot right here from Europa. So the characters, as they move and walk, are actually those 4DGS characters. So let's go to LoRa's. So on our latest film, we worked on a fish, and it's a blobfish. And the blobfish lives at very low depths. And as it comes up the ocean, it changes quite a bit. So what we had to do here is get a hold of images of this blobfish. And there was not very many like VO3 or AI models that would have this data, right? So we had to figure out how to solve for this problem. So we went to oceanic institutes and got images, and we were allowed to use the images. However, we were not allowed to use the images or load them up to a larger model, say, for example, VO3 or other public models. So we then took those images, and those two-dimensional images, we used Meshi, and we created a three-dimensional image. Then we cleaned it up, and then we wrote a script to turn it around and do different lighting. From that different lighting, we could then go to large GPUs. The large GPUs had basically a big VRAM footprints, or B200s. Those B200s could then render the fish. And this is what you get now. You get a fish that you can work with, play with, use in your film as you want to use it. So as you begin to look at how AI has gotten into the industry, you'll see things like AI sound. All of these movies used AI tools to get here. This specific tool on these films are all respeecher. We're finding that Hollywood is actually a very open-armed to using some of these solutions as long as you're using them in an ethical way. You know, that the permission is properly given and that you're following the rules. I believe that over 60 films this year use such tools. So as I move forward, we're going to talk a little bit more about AI filmmaking and several aspects of it. The first one is going to be animation. So unbeknownst to me, Benjamin Michel, who's in the audience and speaking, is here at the conference. I didn't know until like 2 days ago. He's a dear friend, and we are working on a wonderful project called ChickaBOOM. So what ChickaBOOM is it's a little girl who wants to be a magician like her father. And she's trying to take shortcuts, and in those shortcuts, she goes in, lets out the special magic, and she doesn't know how to control it. So let's look at what we were doing on this project. On this project, we started off and we originally wanted to use what I would define as utility AI. Utility AI is basically tools in your pipeline that might leverage different aspects of AI in a non-generative way. So these are things that are going to use all kinds of different aspects of AI. People get a little confused in assuming everything is generative. In this film, that's not what we are attempting to do. We're attempting to find all those tools. But as we matured on this, we came across Asteria, and Asteria has what is known as a clean model, which he'll explain later. But they are the most sophisticated organization I have run into when it comes to AI filmmaking. So let's look at a little quick piece here from Chicka. And I would love to get into this a bit more. And I guess Ben doesn't actually have talks on this, but the way something like this is done is not simply prompt and pray. This is much more sophisticated than that. And I don't actually want to give you too much about it. We're looking to be finished with the film probably sometime close to December-ish, November, December. What's really cool about this is that we have some wonderful collaborators. So keep an eye out for this film. It should be coming up. It has Natasha Leon, David Diggs from some wonderful series, and Yara Shahiri. So let's look at the second film. So what I'm showing you is 3 different films and 3 different approaches to AI filmmaking. The second film is a hybrid film. This film is shot practically, and then we use AI to help recreate everything beyond that. So you could be using a basic gray box off of Unreal or a Blender file, and then taking AI to go ahead and retexture all of this, saving you a lot of time in a process. Here's another one where we've taken a traditional bamboo forest and we began to add water to it, or use AI to add nuance to the details of a city. I think that AI and virtual production are coming together here. At USC, we have a statement that there's only 2 types of filmmaking. It's either practical or actual production and virtual production. So anything within the realm of ICVFX, OSVP, AI, all of that is considered virtual, and everything else is going to be considered practical. Here's another tool we began to play with. If you've got to work with some of the models, you'll realize that sometimes things like lensing doesn't come through in a process. So here we're using a tool called PHOTA, and we can scan a lens and then apply its abilities to change the image after we've rendered the scene. So here you can see we were actually shooting on iPhones. The reason we shot on iPhones is because there is depth sensors and more data from the cameras, and we wanted to see if the AI could leverage those extra things. This is an app called JetSet here. So you can see a live comp. It's using the same principles as virtual production, a tracking system in which it knows where it is in space. Right? And from there, they could see where the people are in context to the scene. So we could then do a Blender slap comp, and then later we can AI retexture the scene. Here's another example. A quick Blender slap comp and then AI retexturing, speeding up some of the process. In this situation, this is especially designed for shooting something I couldn't normally shoot. Many of these shots are in Peru and up near sacred sites in Peru. So it gives me the ability to do things that I couldn't have done, especially as an independent producer. Here's actually one of my favorite Korean companies right now. This is Beeble.ai, if you don't know. And that's the CEO there. It's incredible how real this looks. You can totally take a scene and completely break it down and relight the whole thing. So let me address really quickly 4 key pillars for studio level adoption. There are several reasons at this point why major studios have not yet adopted the technology. And I'm trying to address it in some of this talk, how these barriers are now falling. So the first one is input or legal data. You need to have a model for a studio that they can actually work on that has an ethical model. So Mary from Asteria is an excellent example, and there's several others here. They cannot risk getting sued at this point. There is no point in making a $100, $200 million film if you're going to spend the rest of your life in legal contention. The second one is copyright or output. When I output these images or these frames, can I do a copyright on the film? Or am I in jeopardy of not getting that copyright? And I'll address that in a second. And the last one, or the second one, third one is consistency and control. How do I get that image that I wanted to have? Can I get that image that I wanted to have? And last, quality. Typical models are kicking out 720p, 8-bit color. You need to be at least 10-bit color to genuinely be doing post on a piece of work. So we'll figure out how we solve some of these. So the first one I'm going to talk about here is copyright. When you get into copyright, the first one over there is called Slice of American Cheese. That is the first AI piece of media that has gotten a copyright. They originally submitted showing the 300 and some odd prompts that they had, and they were rejected in American court. They then showed how they manipulated or changed the image with creative intent past that point. Then they were given a copyright. As far as I understand, Critters is the very first film to get copyright on an animation piece and a moving image piece. And the last one, which is very important, is Echo Hunter. Echo Hunter had SAG agreement to do this work. So SAG actors are involved in this production, which from a studio perspective is a very big deal. There's a lot of ramifications of that case that I'm not going to talk about, but it's very interesting. So let's look at what a modern production looks like in Hollywood. The first 4 people, as you're going along, are AI artists. That's Roberto Schaefer, an ASC DP. That's Tiffany Lin, the writer-director, also Korean. Verena Plum, who's overseeing the artist. Kyan Kam, who is the AI architect of everything. Maddie Wong, who's a famous AI artist. That's Christina Lee Storm of the Television Academy. And this is what's called a shot grid booth. So we're doing this all in what's known as shot grid, or traditional production. So when we did this film, everything is traditional production style. The DP and the writer-director sat down and looked at every single sequence and in the film, which ended up being 86 shots over 8 different kind of sections. So they storyboarded each one of those components, and after they storyboarded, they built them into full animatics, and from those full animatics, they were given over to the AI artist. So here's an example of what's called control and consistency. The shot is the animatic on that side, and this is what the AI artist rendered later. So let's break this shot down, just this part, to see what's going on. You take the AI shot, you have the source, you're going to deband it, you have color correction, you're doing adjustments to the fish, you have a deep blur, nano plugin we used, and this is film emulation. So this is a process by which we're doing things. It's not simply prompt and pray. So let's talk about the next issue, quality. If you want to be delivering, you really need to deliver in UHD, HDR, or 4K at high def, right? So we began to have to look at how can we get from 720p, 8-bit to that. And it's not a simple one button solves everything. We have to repair before you upscale. Otherwise, you're going to get things like compression scars, banding, other problems with your image. And it will just magnify those problems if you don't solve them beforehand. I had a couple more slides, but I guess I went through them a little faster than I thought. So I'm going to end kind of with that. And I just really want to say to the group, thank you so much for having me here. I actually thought I had way too many slides. I didn't realize that. But thank you so much. Some wonderful friends of mine are in the audience, though I have to give a shout out to MK and the whole team down there. So, everybody else, Rick, you guys are amazing.
So thank you for sharing profound insight of us. So please give a big round of applause. 큰 박수로 다시 한번 부탁드립니다.
Hopefully we have lots of good questions.
I hope so. 네, 그러면 질문을 받아보겠습니다. 자유롭게 궁금하신 점이 있으신 분들께서는 손을 들어주시면 저희 스태프분이 마이크를 가져다 드리도록 하겠습니다. We will now open the floor for the question. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Now our staff will bring a microphone to you. 질문이 있으신 분들께서는 손을 들어주시면 저희 스태프분들이 마이크를 가져다 드리도록 하겠습니다. 질문이 있으신 분들 있으실까요? 네. 마이크 가져다 주시면 질문을 한번 받아보겠습니다. 네, 질문을 한번 받아보겠습니다.
First of all, thanks for all the interesting tools and projects. Just wanted to jump into the iPhone Plus jet set rig. You told us that it was shot on Peru or the Peru background, and I was wondering if you still have to go to Peru to get that 3D asset render source, whatever. And also wondered how the detailed process just to get all the background asset.
So no, you don't have to go to Peru. What we did is we collected a series of images from the director creative and created a mood board. The mood board said, here is what the style I like and what I want to do here. And then we handed it over to a gentleman named Clarence Major. Clarence Major also did the morning show with Apple. And so he did production design of all the backgrounds. And then began to deliver things like the Blender assets or Unreal assets so that we could begin to lay everything out. So depending on the scene, we captured the performance with maybe an object or two in the room. And then we basically had the comp there. A few things that were a little tricky with that is AI doesn't like green. So, and AI likes texture as well. So we started by doing things like putting X's on the green screen in the background to try and help pick up space or distance for it. But that was, again, a little bit tricky for us in that process. So we have not finished this piece, but we are now at a point where we're taking all of those assets, bringing them together. And if people want here, I can share my deck, which has a lot more data, including the production designer showing how he set all of the environments up.
네, 충분히 답변이 되셨을까요? 네, 그러면 시간 관계상 더 많은 분들의 질문을 받아보고 싶지만 한 분만 더 질문을 받아보도록 하겠습니다. 질문이 있으신 분들은 손을 들어주시면 저희 스태프분들께서 마이크를 전달해 드리겠습니다. 질문이 있으신 분들 있으실까요? 네, 질문이 있으신 분들은 손을 들어주시면 제가 마이크를 전달 드리도록 하겠습니다. 네, 그러면 제가 한번 질문을 드려보겠습니다. So I will ask you one question for you.
Yes.
Within the next 5 years, what do you believe will the most exciting application of AI characters and digital humans?
I think the world is radically changing. I think that folks who understand technology and can embrace technology are going to be able to tell an amazing story. I was recently at an event in which a major director was talking about how what we do is fake, but we have to have human connectivity with it. So it might be an actor faking who he is, he might be on a fake set, he might be coming up with lines somebody wrote, but if it doesn't connect with us, then it's not going to be a story that resonates. And so I think that we have a wonderful opportunity in the future to tell stories that couldn't be told before, that resonate with many cultures, many people.
Thank you for the answers. 그러면 세션을 마무리하기 전에 연사님께 ICNX 2025를 참여하신 소감과 끝 인사를 청해 보도록 하겠습니다. Before we close, could you please share your final thought on participating ICNX 2025 and final message for us?
So wonderful event, beautifully put together. Thank you so much. Some great speakers, really enjoy some of these folks. And I can't wait to see it be as big as South by Southwest.
Thank you. So our sincere thanks to Erik Weaver and everyone in the audience for your thoughtful attention. Let us give Mr. Weaver another big round of applause. 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다. 네, 연사님의 스피치 덕분에 귀중한 인사이트를 얻을 수 있었던 시간이었습니다. 이상으로 두 번째 키노트 세션을 이렇게 마쳐보겠습니다. 잠시 후 14시 정각에 구글 배우와 첨단 영상 미디어 생태계 혁신이라는 주제로 구글 클라우드 코리아 지기성 지사 대표님의 스페셜 세션이 진행될 예정이오니 많은 관심과 참여 부탁드리겠습니다. 모든 세션은 현장 접수를 통해서 참석이 가능합니다. 사전 예약을 못하신 분들께서는 등록 데스크를 통해서 접수 부탁드리겠습니다. 그리고 더 나은 ICNX 2025를 만들기 위해서 오늘 참여하신 세션에 대해서 만족도 조사를 진행하고 있습니다. QR코드에 접속하셔서 설문에 참여하신 분들께 행사 후 추첨을 통해서 소정의 선물을 드린다고 하니까요. 많은 참여 부탁드립니다. 지금 영상에 보이시는 QR코드에 접속하셔서 설문조사를 해주시면 되겠습니다. 그럼 20분간 휴식 시간을 갖고 잠시 후에 뵙겠습니다. 여러분 고맙습니다.